In this world, healers have been recognized for their exceptional abilities and are often given positions of power as a result. There is even a royal academy dedicated to training the nation's best healers. As a healer, you are usually going to be classed as first, second, or third rate. But then we have Xenos, who doesn't even have a license to use healing magic. However, that hasn't stopped him from helping people whenever he can. So he opened a small office on the edge of the kingdom so he can treat the people who need his help. Once he is done healing the man who came to his office, the man thanks him, but he doesn't have much to pay Xenos with, so he offers him all the money in his pocket. Xenos is fine with it because he's not doing this for personal profit, and after the man leaves, his assistant, Lily, comes in to remind him that he got a house call. Xenos says he's going to head out immediately, so Lily tells him she will have dinner waiting when he gets back. A few hours later, Xenos is done with his house call and is on his way back home, but while he's walking down the street, he notices a wolf girl who looks like she's in terrible pain. Just then, a noble catches up with the girl and starts yelling at her. He asks where she has been, so the girl tries to explain that her stomach was hurting really badly, so she tried going to the hospital, but they wouldn't treat her because she didn't have any money. The noble looks at her like she's stupid, and a stomach ache isn't enough to warrant a trip to the hospital, especially not for a slave like her with no health insurance. He then drags her off and says she should get back to work immediately. The noble takes the girl to a cemetery and throws her to the ground, causing her to smash her head on a tombstone. He really must not care about her health because an injury like that is enough to kill a person. Plus, after the girl rolls over on the ground in pain, some scary black energy went into her, so I'd be very concerned. However, the noble has the observational skills of a blind man, so he thinks the girl is faking it and tells her to get back on her feet immediately. She obviously can't do that because of the severe pain. The noble walks over to her body and threatens to put her in one of these graves if she doesn't listen to him. But she can barely move, so he proceeds to kick her across the floor. The noble is sick of waiting around for her, so he says she should hurry up and start looking around the cemetery for anything of value. He then starts walking away, and maybe it's the severe pain or the fact that she got possessed, but the girl snaps and slashes the noble across the stomach. The noble is in disbelief at first because he has never been injured so badly before. He tries reasoning with the wolf girl, but then he remembers how he was kicking her a second ago, and she looks like she's out for blood, so there's no point in trying to negotiate. He starts running away at the speed of a light jog because that's as fast as he can go, and the noble definitely would have died here. But by some miracle, Xenos happened to be in the area, so he runs to him for help. He tells Xenos that his slave went crazy and is trying to kill him, but Xenos saw the way he treated her back on that street, so he is pretty sure that the noble deserved it. The wolf girl eventually catches up with the noble, so he begs Xenos to save him. Xenos takes one look at her, and he can clearly see the dark energy around her, so he asks the noble what he was doing when the girl went out of control. The noble doesn't want to admit that he was trying to get her to rob some graves for him, so he just says he was farming for loot. That's definitely illegal, but he tries to change the topic and reminds Xenos that he is severely injured, so he needs to get to a hospital right away. He even offers to pay Xenos if he can save him from the girl, but Xenos doesn't care about money. However, he also took an oath to save people's lives, so when the girl charges at the noble, Xenos pulls him out of the way in time. The girl then throws a bunch of rocks at Xenos, so he skillfully evades them without much effort. If he is skilled enough to do that, the noble thinks he should be able to kill the girl, but Xenos firmly refuses because he has a strict no-kill rule. The noble tells him to stop spouting that dark knight nonsense, because if Xenos doesn't kill that girl right now, then she might end up killing the noble. But Xenos still refuses because as a healer, his goal is to save as many people as possible. And immediately after saying this, he proceeds to punch straight through a rock that the girl threw at him. And I'm pretty sure healers can't normally do that. Xenos can tell that the girl is incredibly fast. In fact, she's way faster than a demi-human should be, so he knows something is wrong. He doesn't want to hurt her too badly, so as the girl tries to slash him, he pulls up a shield, and as soon as she makes contact, she gets flung backwards into a nearby building. Incidentally, this also causes a piece of the building to collapse right next to the noble, and Xenos is fast, so he totally could have saved the noble, but he simply chose not to. Now that everything has calmed down, Xenos walks over to the girl's body, and her leg is broken from the fall, so she is struggling to get away. She is still feral, so Xenos lets her bite onto his arm to keep her in one place. He has figured out that she is possessed, so he puts his hand on her head and starts healing her to get the spirit out. He is successful, but he is still a little curious as to what she could possibly have been doing to make a spirit possess her. In any case, he still needs to take care of the ghosts, so he uses his powers to exorcise it. He then turns back to the girl, and now that she's back to normal, he heals her broken leg so she can walk again. The noble sees this as he pulls himself out from under the rubble, and he is amazed that Xenos is powerful enough to heal a broken leg instantly. He is still badly hurt, so he pleads with Xenos to save him, But Zeno says he actually just clocked out for the day, so the noble will have to wait until tomorrow to get healed. The noble knows he's going to bleed out in a couple of hours, so he begs Zenos to heal him right now. Zenos eventually agrees, but he says it's going to cost him extra. The noble doesn't care about the price, so he gives Zenos all the money he has. This is well above the current market rate for healing, so he assures Zenos should be satisfied, but to his surprise, Zenos says this is nowhere near enough. He doesn't usually care about payment, but considering how scummy the noble was acting earlier, Zenos is feeling very capitalistic right now. The noble threatens to report Zenos for extortion, but that wouldn't bother him since he doesn't have a license in the first place. He's technically an illegal healer, but the noble probably knows all about illegal stuff considering the fact that he has been grave robbing. Anyway, Zenos is willing to make a deal, so he tells the noble that he is willing to accept alternative payment, so in addition to the gold, he wants to take the noble's slave. The noble never cared about the girl anyway, so he agrees to Zenos' terms, and as soon as Zenos heals him, he hands over the girl's slave contract. The noble then walks off in a fit of rage, so Zenos sits on the floor next to the girl and waits for her to wake up. When she finally regains consciousness, she is surprised to see a man sitting next to her and asks him who he is. Zenos tells her his name and explains that he just bought her, so from now on she's his slave. With that out of the way, he tells Till to take off her clothes immediately. Till gets flustered and asks him if he's serious, but Zenos isn't joking. He says he paid a lot for Till, so he needs to make sure his property is in good condition. Till eventually does as he says since she can't disobey her master, and once Zenos gets a good look at her body, he can immediately tell what's wrong. He noticed that she was in pain earlier, and that's because she has a gallstone blocking her bile duct. It should be easy enough for him to fix, so he reaches for her stomach and uses magic to perform the operation. In an instant, the gallstone is removed and Till no longer feels any pain, so she asks Zenos what he did. Zenos explains that all he did was open up her stomach, extract the gallstone, and close her back up in a fraction of a second. A totally normal procedure. Zenos doesn't think there's anything special about it, but Till knows for a fact that no other healer could do something like that. She thanks Zenos for healing her, but he tells her a thank you isn't enough. He invested a lot into her, so he's going to need Till to work to pay him back. At first, Till thinks Zenos is going to ask her to service him with her body, but Zenos just wants her to give him directions to a particular plant he has been looking for. Till thinks that's a strange request, but she leads him to a bush with the leaves that he is looking for. She asks him if this is really all he wants from her because she is willing to do a lot more for him, but Zenos says this is enough. He always demands a fair price for the work he does for others, and her helping him find these leaves is all he needed from her, so all debts have been settled. He then tears up Till's slave contract and tells her she can do whatever she wants with her life now. Till doesn't really know what to do with herself now that she's not a slave anymore, but she's free to try all sorts of new things now, and it's all thanks to Zenos. She asks if she can come see him again, and Zenos says that if she's ever hurt, he will be glad to heal her, but not for free of course. Meanwhile, back at home, while Zenos was out working, Lily began preparing dinner. The food smelled so good that the resident ghost, Camilla, had to come down to see what was cooking. Lily notices her, and Camilla says she's excited to taste Lily's cooking, but the food won't be ready for a while, so she's going to have to wait in her room. Just then, a girl named Zofia came in looking for Zenos, but Lily tells her that he's out on a house call, so he's not here right now. Zofia was hoping to get Zenos all to herself by coming early today, but since he's not here, she decides to wait until he gets back. It looks like Zofia wasn't the only one who wanted to see Zenos today, because a few moments later, Linga shows up looking for him as well. Lily informs her that Zenos isn't here, so Linga says she'll wait, but she's surprised to see that Zofia is already here. She was hoping to lick Zenos all over while he inspected her body, but now that plan is ruined. A few moments later, an orc girl named Lou bursts through the door, so Lily goes to meet her and says she can join them inside, but only after she fixes the front door she broke. Lou likes Zenos too, but she actually came because she could smell Lily's cooking a mile away, and she really wanted to try it. Eventually, Lily is done cooking, so she was off to finish a couple of her chores and leaves the others in the kitchen. The second that Lily leaves the kitchen, the demi-human girls can no longer resist the smell of Lily's food, so they all go to give it a taste test. But they're definitely smart enough to know not to empty out the entire pot. Never mind, that pot looks pretty empty now. The three are starting to realize how badly they've messed up because Lily is definitely going to be mad once she gets back. A few moments later, Lily returns, and after seeing what has happened, she smiles at the girls and demands that they explain themselves. Later that night, Zenos finally returns home and Lily apologizes because dinner isn't ready like she had promised. There was a bit of a problem with the food, but she already found the solution. She sent the girls out to gather ingredients for her to make a new dish, and by the time they return, they brought way more ingredients than she expected, so Lily will be able to make a feast night. But before that, she knows Xenos must have been working hard all day, so she says she'll prepare a cup of tea for him so he can relax. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.